Okay, it being around about 6 o'clock, I'll call the Budget Committee meeting of February 25th to order. And if we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, if we can have us a roll call, starting from my left with Mr. Brown.
Larry Brown.
Peg Hurd.
Dennis Woods.
Humphrey Williams.
Andy Rawson.
And Thomas McDougal, Chairman. It looks like we have a quorum. Okay, let's see, first up on the agenda is a brief chat about the Water District budget process. Andy, are you on the Water District?
Yeah, I'm the treasurer.
Okay, we've got to think about when they're gonna have, because we've got to have a public hearing, and we can't really change your budget, but usually we act as a sort of independent review, I guess, of it. We need to think about scheduling that.
Okay.
I don't think your budget needs to be done until April.
No, I mean, no, it doesn't.
Yeah,
But I
it's-
mean,
You know, you've had Stan on the board, and he's been taking care and make sure all that stuff gets done. We don't have Stan anymore, so
no,
as the rep.
no. I just left from there, so
Okay.
I'll ask Karen and
Okay, all
get
right.
back to you.
All right, because we'll have to schedule a public hearing, I think,
The
and all that.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brown.
as I remember, the water district, since it has few users, maybe 350, 400,
Yeah.
the public notification of the annual meeting is done by postcard, which saves the cost of the putting in the notice in the newspaper. And then it has been usually in March, presented by the water district with usually one faithful member of the public, and then.
Yeah, last year we
Stan.
had it the last
Yeah.
weekend in March.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and Stan or you just gave a review of where the different funds stood,
Yep.
what the rates were, and how things were going.
Yeah,
And then we just sort of bless you, my son, and
Yep.
that's it.
because we can't really change any of it anyway, so it's in just a second.
Oh,
I just
my
wanted to make sure that
children.
we bring that out as to, hey, we need to, this is something that we don't want to forget about. And town expenditure reports. I'm not sure if I sent out the expenditure reports or if I received them, actually.
Actually, I talked with Ernie a little bit
Yep.
and went through, I saw him earlier today, and he sent me out the end of the year one because they had some additional changes.
Okay, yeah.
But the current one, they're having some problems because they're trying to get the line items all
Okay,
squared
okay,
away
yeah.
following the meeting. So what I just wanted to address was what he had said, because when I asked him, I'd asked him for the Excel file and he sent it to me, and then he talked about a couple of particular line items I figured we'll go into. So he said he wanted to explain 3 sets of transactions at the town administration budget, which were not originally budgeted for, and it ended up with about $21,676 in overages, okay? They're still under everything else, but
Yeah.
it was over in the town administrator aspect. So they had an issue with the FICA that's been going on for a while, so he says
Yeah.
obviously the over expenditure amount does not pertain to the wages of the town administrative budget. That's an aggregate from town FICA payments, it says, that were not made in the first 2 quarters of 2019, which we had to go back and correct while we were working with the IRS to avoid $50,000 in penalties they were levying against the town for errors that went back to 2016. So that also included some of those back taxes all the way back to 2016, which was an error in the way the software program had reported wages subject to the different categories of the New Hampshire retirement system percentages. We paid all the back taxes and avoided the penalties through the hard work of an individual on the staff in Stonehill Municipal Resources. Said there was also an issue contract services budget. He says there were several payments that ended up totaling about $25,096 to Municipal Resources for hiring services and for when Dave Owen was here as the interim town administrator. That was contracted through MRI. And finally, there was a supplies overage of $10,463 that says this was expended to pay a credit card through the First Seacoast Bank that was not tracked properly and carried a large unpaid balance since 2018. on which the town was paying an interest charge. So instead of trying to track down who and why, they had the finance pay it off so that now it's all done.
Okay.
So, in the end, where did I go back
They
to?
close that credit card?
Yeah. He didn't say, but I'm assuming that was probably a good part of that, yeah. But in the end, looking at the budget, so I've got the overages. I'll put the file up on our
Okay.
thing later, because that'll be our final thing. I
And
went
that's
down
the-
and pulled the total. This is the final through the end of December, and what they've ended up with. So in here, and what's different is, you've got the regular budget, which showed the $4,563,000 budget. Then you go to the net budget, because that's gonna roll in, that rolls in encumbrances and
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So that ends up being $5,461,000. When you take out what was spent and everything else, they ended up with $714,859.68 left. So it was about 86%, almost 87% of that budget was spent. The other one with the penalties and all that ended up spending about 95%. So they were between the 86 and 95% total, like we had looked at. So it does show that that worked fairly well. But there is still, there's still a good net balance, and I know you talked about that a little while back, so,
Yeah.
so that'll be utilized. And one quick thing, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, I'm gonna turn it over to you if you wanna address any of it. I ended up putting a breakdown,
Yeah.
because there's been a lot of talk and a lot of speculation on, oh, we cut all kinds, we cut everything. And that shows you by department that there's cuts, but there are a lot of departments that got more money. I mean, we all know that because we've seen it, but the public hasn't seen the record, so.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you're looking at it, I think that's important to put out there.
Yeah, yeah, it's,
I mean, if you wanna
Yeah.
read it out, or you want me to read it out.
you can, you know better what the,
Okay.
why do I? Okay, that's because it wasn't there before.
Yeah.
All right, and this is the,
That's at the end of
Yeah,
2000,
okay. Yep.
this is the proposed budget
yeah.
for 2020. But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
mind going through it. And just
Yeah.
to go through, I mean,
Yeah,
we
I
had an overall,
I was
we
gonna
have an
say,
overall
I-
reduction, but there are
Yeah.
departments that got, because of salary
Yeah, I mean,
increases and things like that. they got
basically,
more.
the difference from what we recommended to the 2019 default, which was the budget that they were under,
Yep.
was, we were under last 2019's budget.
Yep.
Our recommendation by $1,375.
Yep.
77 cents. So I'm not sure how that compares to what the default is for 2020.
Yeah, the default is slightly below that
Yeah.
in the town warrant.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got it, but I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it is.
something that'll come out, but the
Yeah.
default is below it. But I didn't know if you wanted to kind of touch on, we hit, some of the things that we hit were actually things that were addressed. I mean, the budget committee, for instance, we cut the
Yeah.
budget committee
Yeah.
by 6%, We cut assessing because they weren't using the big contract. But, and we cut, there were cuts in things like debt service interest because they didn't have as much. So, it's not even things we cut, that's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
things that
it
got
goes down.
reduced. Insurance and benefits was a big drop. It was $95,000 drop because of issues that they had in the previous
Yeah,
year. So
that
we
they-
didn't
that
cut
they
it,
fixed, yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
part of what comes out
Yep.
into that 0.03%. The zoning board, for instance, cut 56.67%. And that was the zoning board because we weren't using it. They're now using some,
We,
Yeah. And they
they're not,
changed it.
they're using the difference in how they're collecting money. So it was the budget from 2019 to 20, it got minimized. But
Yeah.
we is not quite the issue. We were not on the.
No, we didn't
ZBA.
cut their zoning
Excuse me.
board itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's one interruption. The zoning board budget was cut 56%.
Right.
That means that the monies that come in are from what source now?
So it's in dealing with any of the information that comes into
And
the
what
zoning
is
board, the
and
planning
what
board,
is the
permits
total-
and things like
what
that.
is the total budget for the ZBA?
The total budget for the ZBA is $650 this coming year.
Right.
Right.
And 56% was,
It was $1,500 the previous year
right.
because of how they were doing with things such as the hearings and all that, right?
Yeah, it's, the monies are being allocated differently for, I believe, the planning board as well. When people come for public hearings, it's sort of being prepaid by those that come.
Right.
rather than having to pay it and then
Yes.
get reimbursed.
And
So
that
it's
is- that
it's a
is a
shuffling of how the
structure.
money is.
Right.
That structure has nothing to do with the operation of the budget committee.
Absolutely, that's what I was gonna
Yeah.
drive at, Larry.
Well,
Yeah.
let's get that out there first.
Well, no, that's a good point. Good point.
Yeah.
I didn't think it wasn't a good point.
All right.
Okay. But my point that I was trying to make is, there were things that were cut by these departments. They were not all by the budget committee. In the end, the budget committee did go through, but a lot of these things were already cut by the departments themselves. The planning board, the zoning board, welfare, a lot of those were cut themselves, okay? So, but I'm gonna post this. I don't wanna read all of these,
Yeah,
because there were
no,
others,
no.
I mean,
Yeah.
that were increased due to salary increases.
Yeah.
And a lot of the departments, you know, the departments that got that, they were salary increases more than anything else,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, pick.
When you're saying increases, the department's increased.
department's budget
We did not
increased.
increase their proposed budget.
No, we
Okay, all right,
reduced,
thank
no,
you.
there were increases that are gonna show on here,
Okay,
but we had reduced what they had asked for some of these increases, so
okay.
some of
No,
those.
I just
yeah.
wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that that was.
Nope.
Yep.
No, so I mean, we
Comment
didn't
out
cut,
there.
and that's just it, we didn't cut everything in here. The budget
No, I
committee
know,
ended
I
up
know.
working in conjunction with, but the reason I'm bringing it up, and Larry, and I appreciate your comment, you know, is there's been a lot of speculation that we just took everything and cut it, and that is not the case, you know? So when this gets posted, it's just so that people understand that this is based on their proposals, and we had some changes on those, that's all.
Okay. Any other questions about the reports? That's a good job on bringing that all together.
Yep.
Humphrey. Yes, Peg.
Yeah, I have one final one. Their ending balance, I just want to verify, was 714,000.
That's including some of the encumbrances. If you take the encumbrances
All right,
and the
what-
interest out, I'm gonna give you the
Okay.
other balance. That's why I see it. That wasn't on their report. It's 383,212.13 when you take those out,
Okay, so that is the net.
right? Because it's
Okay.
under debt service, interest, and debt you know, there's,
Okay,
those things get rolled out of the regular budget, the budget that came out of the default.
okay.
So, yes.
So what happens to that money, Andy? Maybe,
We usually buy the tax rate down the following year.
okay.
Yeah, goes into the
And
general fund and then they figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
Okay, the,
Well, it goes into the fund balance.
The fund balance, yeah,
it would,
yeah.
that would be
That's what I
the unassigned fund balance,
Yeah.
which will be determined after the close of books and audit when
Yep.
when the window for final
Yep.
bills.
We'll start the audit probably
come.
next week.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
anything, any other comments about that? Town expenditure reports, whatnot? Okay, on the school reports. They were posted up there,
Okay.
on the Google thingy.
And of
Ms.
course, I
Peg,
had lots
anything
of
you wanna-
questions. Lisa, I actually have one for you. Whoop, thanks.
Is that the one you already handed me?
What?
Is that the one
Oh,
you
I already
handed
gave
me?
it to you. Do I have enough for everybody? Just take one in. And for some reason, I have my expense report out in the car and I didn't like running out until I realized it. I printed out 6. Oh well. Andy, you can maybe look on with.
Yeah, I'll
Here,
work
here.
on with, I'll
Okay.
work on with Humphrey.
Yeah, that's fine, we can share.
All right.
All right, my general questions. Health insurance, just going through, you're gonna see all sorts of increases due to health insurance, change of plans. Yes, and different plans from turnover of staff. So I might have gone from a single to a 2-person. I was an employee on a single and I left and Dennis came on board and did a family plan. So when we budgeted, it was based on who we had and what their plans were. FICA, good old FICA, with that mask, and New Hampshire retirement system, the same thing, because if you look through the report, you're just gonna see all sorts of FICA. So Nate's answer is, after I made all the masking changes, we made the first payment of health insurance buyouts, and because those are linked to the health insurance lines, the system created this lovely system. new lines. He's since corrected it and said lines for FICA and retirement, so they should, I don't know if there's any real wood here, knock on wood, be gone by next month. This system has been a real pain in the neck. Specific questions. On page 14, I asked about the salary increase for the middle/high school librarian, and it's not really. The librarian has an agreement with the library trustees, so she starts working on August 1st, and since we were on a default budget, obviously we did not budget that in. School board salaries, there was something in there, and I said, did we get a raise? Anyway, it came from advertising and it was charged to that account. It's been fixed. Technical services and software on page 17. Firewall expense was put in there. That's been fixed. It was not supposed to be there. Software line, the new accounting software training, as well as we did buy a student activities module that we purchased a couple of months ago. A salary increase for middle high school principal, I have to say I did not remember, but we did approve a raise for her. Page 20, elementary principal maintenance agreement. Printing overages, he really wants to spend time with the district rep to see how we can minimize those costs, but a lot of it is because they really have not had books. So making
So
copies.
that's like maintenance on the copier, maintenance agreements for copiers? that
Yes,
kind of thing?
yes.
Okay, all right.
For papers.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Copying papers.
All right.
Custodian/sub OT was over, and there's short a custodian at Newt, so the actual salary line would be down, but the sub would be up. Operations/maintenance peril insurance. The transportations portion was not allocated. It's been fixed. It should be, or should have gone into the transportation, and it went to the wrong line. Salaries, elementary, I know he tells me this all the time. The current year's proposed budget is meant to fix allocations to be more in line with what the drivers were doing and to be more in line with the DOE 25. But again, we're in a default budget, so if I were really a special ed driver, but the default budget had my salary under, regular bus driver, that line would be over. So hopefully it's going to be fixed for this year. Contracted services. I had no clue, and yes, it is new. We've been able to pay for it out of Title I, but we do not have the Title I funds, which is a grant, and we have to pay it by law. IT contracted services and software. We didn't have the SAU portion of Back Bay taken out. That's been fixed too. The default budget strikes again, requiring us to keep what we had last year, even though the costs went up. So the costs went up, but
Now,
Anyway.
is that a contracted cost that you know is going to go up?
yeah, but it went up even more.
Or over and above what the contract said?
Well, yeah, for this year.
Okay.
What's my phone doing?
I don't know that I want to go down that rabbit hole, but that just sounds strange to me.
Okay, and then I had some.
What would seem to be a structural answer is that for services A, B, and C, the agreed increase in our rate for the coming academic year will be 5%. If expense D is added to that, it will be a new contract expense not covered in our present contract. How does that sound?
And like I said, that's why I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now.
Sounds good. Okay, very, very specific, my very specific questions. The December 31st, January 31st, whatever it was, January 31st, showed a balance of $925,593. It shows the additional aid that we had the public meeting and vote and everything of the 361. And the transfer to food service, my question was, can't that be encumbered? So he added them both. It was updated to match the MS-22 and the MS-24, but they should have been encumbered as soon as they were put into the budget, but they were not. And he has now encumbered them. So they just kind of showed up as, this is our budget, but we haven't spent any of the money yet. And the 361 actually is in a fund balance until 2024 or whatever. I can't remember what the year was, but he still has not encumbered everything. So right now the balance looks like 473,000, but everything is not encumbered yet.
All right, anybody have any questions on, yes, Humphrey?
When you go back to, when you talk with Nate, because I know when we met last summer, and I don't know if the new program's set up, I know it's set up different than the other one, but we talked about this because he makes the adjustment to the budget, not to an adjusted budget. In other words, a different column like because he had that ability before. So I know I went through and it's like, okay, now we've got, it's roughly $418,000 change in the budget is what it came down to overall.
Expenses?
No, the overall, he rolled the money in, like he rolled the food transfer, I understand that. And he rolled the $361,003 in to the line item.
Right.
But there's other adjustments that were in, and I can show you afterwards on this, that are.
Yeah, if you can be.
I'll be
totally
very specific when I send it, but anyways, as far as part of that goes, because like under the Office of Principal, some adjustments too. I didn't get every dollar amount, but the 361 I understood and the 60,000 I understood, but there's about $20,000 out of that get rolled, added up into the budget. We talked before, because it's like, you should keep your original budget
Right, which
there,
I don't understand.
and then make,
Do you have a copy of that since mine is sitting out in the car, please?
budget?
Whatever, what are you
what
looking
I'm talking
at?
about?
The
Actually, if
expense
you come over here,
report?
and I'm looking at the expenditure report, and I can show you specifically what I'm talking about. It'd be a lot easier for you to see it, you know, and I mean, I
Right,
don't know.
and I would normally
Yeah.
look at it, but
Okay,
I had it.
when
in
he
the car.
prints this out, he has a budget line, then you get range to date, what's been taken out year to date. He
Right,
had a thing before that was an adjusted budget column, okay? So here's the 361.
Yeah.
Shows the contracted service.
Right.
Here's the 60,000.
right.
All right, well, between those two, it's $391,000. If you look at where it was on the December report, it was $10,072,706.01. That was the budget, and that wasn't changed. That stayed there in
Okay,
November.
yeah.
But now it's $10,491,000, okay? So it's actually a change of $418,955. So there's $57,000 over and above. This is over and above the 361. So there was a $60,000 increase, but there's some other decreases to the budget. In other words,
Okay, let me ask you a question. Is this your,
this is what he sent me, and all I did was just, this
okay,
is
let
the
me
math.
ask you,
This is the math I did.
that's what I'm saying, that
Yes.
you did this.
Right, I took his
Okay.
December expenditure
Okay.
report and just looked at the total,
Yep,
and I put it here. This is his, and all
Yep.
I did was highlight it.
that's it, no, that's okay, I just wanted to
So
make
like I
sure.
said, there's a change of $418,000 increase. It's very hard, this is why I had said to him, you really should
Okay,
use the
would
adjusted.
you do me a favor, would you go back to December, please?
Yep.
But he doesn't have that column in there.
Right.
And go
yeah.
up, I wanna just see if,
See, there's.
no, I wanna, all right. The 361,000 is not there, okay.
No, it comes into the January report, I understand that, and that's what he said.
Okay.
So that's showing right here, that one's okay.
No, I know.
But
And
Yep,
the 60,000,
shows right there.
go back to December, I don't think the 60,000.
That's not there either, nope, that's
Okay.
not there either.
So that's 360.
That's actually more, that's 391,000, okay?
Right,
But there's a $418,000 change, so it's like,
okay, 361, 418.
yep. So it's just,
Remember those.
I can't tell because
Oh,
all he
that's
did,
okay.
Peg, was make an adjustment to that, to
Well,
the
and
budget without showing where it was changed, okay? So it's very difficult to go back and find out what was changed in that area, okay?
All right, 316 what? He added
400, there's 418,955.90.
418, okay.
Yep, that was increase from December to the January budget. But between the 361 '03, and the 60,000 is only 391 '03. So the difference between those two is what I'm talking about.
Wait, it's 361
Yep.
and 361,000.
It's 421, excuse me, it's
61.
421,000.
Okay.
There's a decrease and
Okay.
there's an increase in some other
Okay,
areas, and I
okay.
don't know what they are.
Okay, no,
I'm
the
sorry.
two numbers you said.
Yeah,
didn't
no,
I know,
match up.
I'm
no, I made, no, I
Okay.
said it wrong.
Sorry.
I was
So
looking at
we're
the
basically
361.
$7,000 off.
Yeah, and I don't know what the changes were, because he put it all under budget instead of under a revised, it should have had a revised budget column, which would have made it easier
Okay.
to understand.
Do me another favor then, please.
Yep.
And we'll at least have 421,000 accounted for. Please put in, I'll go back to December, see what he put in for food service and see what's in there for January, please.
Yep, you're talking about the transfer to food
Yes.
service, the total is what you wanted, and that was 40,858. And now it is, he's the 40,858 plus the 60,000, so, but he
What-
shows it as he shows them separate.
Okay,
He
but
shows
it
the
still is the
40,858.
40,858.
Yep, and that's still
Okay,
there, and then he's
okay.
got a new line item for
Okay,
the 60,000. So,
Okay, one of the reasons, I mean, I can explain the 361 and the 60,
yep,
because when he did the MS 25,
Mm-hmm.
he had to add those in, even though they should not, I hate to say it, they should not have been added in without being encumbered, and he did not encumber them.
yep.
And so I
have no
see what
problem
you're
with them
saying.
adding them in. My only
Yeah.
comment is, we had talked about it, because I said to him, you should leave the original, and he agreed, and I'm just finding out if the new program allows it. There was a
Okay.
reason for a revised budget, so that you could put in what was revised,
Okay,
and then you'd see the
ability
new,
to reconcile.
Yeah.
what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Right, because he's the only one that can answer a question, and it should stand up on its own a little
I just
bit.
answered a couple, I thought.
No, you did.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
But, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Thank you. It's about time I got a compliment. Sorry,
Then-
Larry.
So the question is, what does it mean? Is it lost money? Is it misspent money? How does it affect the operation of the school district for this present time? And most importantly, what track are you going to keep of this information so that it does not come up as something you need to find out about again? On the same topic, what are you doing to keep a record of this piece of paper so that when you look at it 3 months from now, you have an answer for how things are going? That is the important question. I go back to the same comment, which was the end of the fiscal year for the selectmen's budget will be nominal 131, and an audit after that will determine whether or not monies have been spent fraudulently, whether they have been misspent. And I think you should be paying more attention to the capacity of the town administrator and the school administration to handle their budget. This $7,000 is dog tail chasing.
Okay, by the way, I wasn't done with my stuff, so I'm gonna address it. Larry, I don't care if you think it's dog-tail chasing. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. My comment was to make it easier so you can go back. Because whether you wanna call it a dead budget or not, looking at past profiles and that, it needs to be something that stands on its own, okay? I'm not, and $7,000 don't sound like much. You're right, against a $10 million budget. But when it's a little here and there, all I'm saying is, for accuracy's sake, if you've got the original budget, that's the one that's approved. You don't add things to an original budget after the fact. You put it under a revised budget so that it shows. And then somebody knows, okay, we started with 10 million, boom, this. Now it's this. But what he did was he rolls it all up like it's and this happened last year. That's why we went and met with him. Because it becomes harder and harder to find out what's the real budget. Okay? So there is a budget that should line up with what was approved last year. So it's not for a fight, but I'm not going to be told, don't ask. Now,
Well, let me add something.
That's
to it.
fine.
That's our job.
exactly.
It's the job of the budget committee to reconcile all of the town and the school
and point out any issues and ask why and
The-
get clarification.
that is not quite-
That's what was being done.
That is not quite accurate. If you
No, it
read
is
the
accurate.
statute,
It's
it
simplified.
is to review the budget of the present year and to make a careful account of the expenses for the ensuing year.
Okay.
I think the key word to that sentence you just said
Is-
was to review,
Yeah.
And that's what we're
okay?
doing.
And that, I think that's what really is being
And-
done here.
This is not an expense. You are not asking whether or not the toilet paper was on sale for 99 cents or you bought it on state contract for 87. And that $7,000 is not, as far as I can tell, attached to a specific cost of education, a line item for this budget.
We don't know that, Larry, okay?
We-
We don't know that, and
We
that's
know-
why
we
I'm
know there's-
asking.
There's a $7,000 difference. Question is,
Wait.
why?
Right.
And it's, you would think that numbers in a computer, there wouldn't be, so it's, the question is simply, why is there a $7,000 difference? I think that is
7,000.
absolutely a question that the budget committee should be interested in. Granted, we can't change it, we can't say you shouldn't do it, but having some understanding as to why, and getting knowledge into this is why we see differences, will only help us going forward when, and maybe the question about $3,000 next year, we'll have some better understanding and might not have to ask the question. Or maybe we will.
Again, if you track it and can refer to it and move from there. What Peg has here is useful. And if that $7,000 comes back with the same answer, it is useful.
Okay.
To go back and forth on an accident of line transfer without a misuse of the funds, without something that has been actually spent for during the year, is not as productive as other things.
But the issue is, all right, this is Nate Castle's budget, or this is the
What he
school,
tracks.
what he tracks, okay? There's a discrepancy of $7,000, okay? That's an issue.
And I won't even call it a discrepancy. I just wanted to know because he identified, and you identified, the food transfer, and you identified, we know about the money that came in for the unappropriated funds. That's more than 21,000. The reality is, there's a overall reduction of $3,000 between them, but there's rises and falls under an approved budget that doesn't have any kind of revised budget.
All right,
Now-
rather
no,
than
let me
continue,
finish.
now I will find out
Okay.
what the story
Okay,
is.
now
and
I'm
I
being
think that
interrupted,
we
and I just
are-
want to finish. I'm not trying to fight, but I want to finish my statement. This is why we met last year, because it was the same thing. And then Nate found out it was how he reported it that caused some of this. You know, last year when I started on this thing and I started asking questions why there was discrepancies month to month, I kept being told that let it go. I'm not letting it go when all I want to do is have a simple answer, and that's usually all it takes. Okay? But, and Larry, you would sit there, you know, somebody else goes to say something, you don't like being interrupted, so you make a big deal out of it. You interrupted me and you interrupted Dennis while we were talking too. And you know what? It works both ways. So have a little respect for what we're saying. Okay? Now, I was trying to finish two more things that I wanted to address. Okay? We talked about the special education. We talked about it both at the deliberative session and we talked about it the last time. And I wanted to talk about the remaining budget because it was stated at the time that there was 0.3% remaining. Remember that comment, Peg? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, right now, what I want to clarify in that is there's over 1.3 million encumbered. What we're talking about was the 0.3% would have been the budget balance, but since it's changed, it is now 1.6% remaining, and an overall of 53.85% of the budget between encumbered and balance is left, okay? So it's just where. That's all I've ever asked. Where and what's the difference, okay? So, because the subtotal under special education was one of the ones that the number changed from December to January for the budget, okay? And my last comment was, and I'd like to ask the question, because you talked about a bond change next year, right? Bond's gonna be done? And you said that that's gonna be able to reduce the cost to about 18,000 per student? That's what I think your comment was? From about
It'll be-
21,
yeah,
and
it'll
I'm
be
just gonna use
paid-
it,
It'll be paid not
yeah, the year after, whenever it's coming up, in a little over a year or whenever it
20,
is.
what's the budget year that we're going into,
2021.
2021? Okay, It'll be paid off in 2021.
Okay, but your comment was that should reduce it by about $3,000.
No, 2,000.
Okay, okay, 2,000, that's another one. The bond's $276,000 according to what's in here. Which would only reduce it by $552. So there is a huge difference in that. So it would reduce the cost per student by $552,000. If you take $276,000 and divide it by 500 students, that's $552.16. A $2,000 change requires $1 million in reduction. So unless there's $1 million coming out of this budget, it is not dropping $2,000. And when I thought it was said was $3,000 at the meeting,
No,
and that would have been $1.5 million.
2,000.
But anyways, to change it by $2,000 with 500 students requires $1 million to come out of the budget. So I just want that clear, and that's why I look at the data. And Larry, I look at it month in and month out, and I do save it.
I will email you this, because I know I did
Yep.
last year, so that you can put it in the Google
Google thing.
Drive.
Yep.
Yep. So it'll be there, hopefully in perpetuity.
Or until Google takes it down. Which that's the danger of using free services there.
No. And by the way, while my dander is up, I got one other comment, because I understand that things aren't fully encumbered, and I know your comment is fine. I didn't appreciate watching the last the last school board meeting though, when they went, drum roll please. Yes, it's not fully encumbered, and that came out of your school board. That's very immature when I was talking about encumbered funds. So, go back and look at the last meeting, you'll see what I'm talking about. It was like a big deal. Oh, is everything encumbered? No, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. No, it's not all encumbered. I understand that. But that's kind of a dig back at what we were doing here in the budget committee, working on encumbered funds. So, that's enough of my rant, because you wound me up.
That,
All right, Mr. Brown.
let's go backwards slightly in terms of misappropriated funds. It is my understanding from what I just heard that there is credit card debt in the town that had to have been assigned to an individual, that has been written off, and if it was done fraudulently, criminal charges should be filed, or a civil suit to recover the funds. What does the budget committee think?
Our job, as we just described, is to review
And
the
report.
budgets and the expenditures, not to tell
What
the
to do.
town what to do with any monies. So, I don't understand the question.
That,
I reported out what was reported to us as far as the budget went, Larry. No different than what I'm talking about with the school. I've reported out when budgets have changed. I've reported out the town when budgets have increased or decreased. I've just done the same thing in the school. At no point in any of my comments did I say, why is the school spending this money this way? Or why is the town spending this money this way? I simply reported to what the town administrator reported to me. With regards to what the town does with an employee or with an individual, I don't know, and he even said he doesn't have all that information, because this is something that happened a few years ago. He found out about it. So that is not up to the budget committee there. But if it was up to me to turn around and report out what ended up changing on the final part of the budget, because how does it line up with what we did as a budget committee for the year?
I would just like to say, every month, I go through the reports from Nathan, look at everything, question everything that I feel is out of order or out of whatever, and question Nathan, and he gets back to me with answers. I feel as though, I don't know. I guess I'm just done saying.
Okay.
I will find the answers. I'm done.
Okay, but Peg, that's your one thing, and I have nothing against what you've done to go and give him questions and get questions and answers. But that's your one thing. So basically what you're trying to tell me is, I shouldn't have asked any questions, and then why send me the damn report in the first place? I feel in our role, and because I'm not challenging anything you've asked or anything you've given for answers. That was your review. Well, it's sent to us to review too. So there are times when I've had the same questions as you, and there are times when I'm going to have different questions than you. There is a reason why it's not a budget committee of one. It's a budget committee of multiple people. Right now, we're sitting here with 6 people up here. We've had more. We've lost a couple people. So it's, the idea behind this is this is not a one-person thing, but this has been taken like it's a one-person thing or a one-person assault. And when any time I've asked questions, I've gotten comments like, "What are you saying? People have done something wrong?" No, but the data should stand on its own and make it a heck of a lot easier to review. And Larry, it's not a dead budget; it's a spent budget. Okay, so if you feel that if you don't look at your past and you don't try to learn from the damn past, you're destined to make the same mistakes over and over again. So we've learned at the shipyard, and I've learned since then, you review past spending profiles and the history of what's been done so you can project what you're going to do in the current year and project what you're going to do beyond that. Because it's the only way that you're going to ever forecast something is what's been done.
Thank you. The shipyard is presently looking at problems for the retention of retiring workers and over-budget issues. That's a side issue.
Yes, it is, and it had no bearing on it.
If you go back and review the minutes of April, you will find that it came as a great surprise to new members of the board that the municipal budgets are done on a bottom-line basis. I can find the minutes for you if you would like to see it again. By August, it was a great surprise to members of the Budget Committee that grants had to be budgeted on a gross basis. That I have less and less sympathy for people jumping into the water and calling it swimming over time. Town warrants. There has been we dropped the town budget. We had the fire department, we had technology, we had the contingency fund, and $72,000 has been pulled out of the unassigned general fund, plus or minus. The school district gave back $63,000 that same year. There was another $9,000 that came from the $363,000 last year. And I am not a school board member. And even so, it is curious that town budgets make fewer mistakes. And the school district, which has to report to 4 different constituencies, gets hammered because of the multiple line item characterizations it has to use.
Okay.
That's a hard thing. I appreciate the numbers. I look forward to more experience coming to this budget committee next year. I probably won't be here. I'm not on the ballot. But you got to work on a review of what I always call the outliers. And if you have something that is an outlier, get the answer and move on.
All right, okay. If we can wrap up our discussion about the school budget. Ms. Pegg.
I just have one question. If you spend the time looking at the report that Nathan sends, I would really appreciate if you would send the questions to me ahead of time, because I do ask questions of Nathan. He gives me answers. I mean, I feel as though I come prepared with what I look at as the outliers. But if all of a sudden, more questions come up at our meetings that I'm not aware of, I mean, I could answer a couple of them, but we're still down to $7,000. If I could have those questions sent to me ahead of time, then I will look into the research so that I will be able to answer them here, and you're right, I'm done now. Thank you.
Yes.
No, I'm gonna finish, Larry, it's my turn.
Please.
Okay? I've done that for you, Peg, you know that. I've put together
the
reports and
past,
said,
yes.
yep, I have. And what did I get for that? I got, God, you're creating more work for me than I know what to do with. And you have said that to me, and you've said it both aside from the meeting and during the meeting. So guess what? I finally got a chance to go to the January report that he gave me, and I compared it to the December report. So I just happened to see it. I've averaged 25 to 30 hours a week working on budget stuff. You know what? I decided I haven't got time to work 25 to 30 hours, or I would have sent this to you. Because this is not accusatory, it's a question. So Larry, I want the question answered, and then we move on, okay? In regards to the town and looking at line items, if it wasn't for questions that I asked, and I can remember when we met with the department heads, we finally found out, back when we met with Chief Kraus, about the monthly and the constant expenditure report that the budget committee wasn't seeing. So we did start looking at those things. And that was because I asked questions like, where'd that come from? Because no one had seen it. So it was getting the same scrutiny, and that was the reason why this was being sent at the line item. I didn't go through everything here because Ernie addressed what changed, and that was last month's budget when we did go through it completely. I just went through the final report he gave me from a month ago, because he just reported it out today. So the town has gotten the same scrutiny from me as the school has. This isn't I'm against the school, I'm against the town, I'm against anyone, but I got on the budget committee to try to make sure that I treated everyone as equitable as I could, and I tried to find out ways to improve the budget process and the overall thing. Now, some people don't like that, and people don't like change, but again, I'll come back to, if you don't do something different, you're gonna keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Brown.
one slight difference. I was reading, and this is something that Andy said, and it is a great problem. No fault of Andy's, no reflection on the school district or town. There is a Supreme Court decision from 1973, which means anybody who was in school in 1973 on has been affected by it. Very simple. The Supreme Court decided that public education is not a fundamental right guaranteed by the equal protection of the 14th Amendment. And the state of New Hampshire uses the property tax as the majority of its state income. And that hits the middle income people in poor districts. And if you go to Maine and to other research, people who are working for a buck, people who are looking at hard times for food, are getting hammered by the value of their education. And that has nothing against the work the teachers are doing. That's it. Sorry, Andy.
Okay, anything else on item number 5? You want to say anything, Dennis?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I just thought I'd check. All right, approval of the minutes. It was brought to my attention that we don't have 2 8-minutes yet. We have 128 minutes posted up on the Google thingy,
And 114.
and 114. Didn't we approve 114?
No, actually, in the last one we approved, we put it aside.
Oh, okay.
We agreed to set it aside until a few things were edited, and then we would
Okay.
get it back. So
Yeah, I was waiting for her to send me back the edited copy.
Yeah,
She was gonna do
exactly.
that, and I haven't seen that yet.
No.
Mr. Brown?
Do we have the minutes for the deliberative session?
We do not have them yet. That was
We do
2
not.
8.
That, may I just, when the session ended, we got together,
Yep.
the 5 of us, very quickly, and we approved the things that we agreed with.
Yep.
And Peg came over, and we had set up an absolute production line of, I think, Humphrey moved, I seconded,
Yep.
bing, bing, bing,
Yeah.
bing, 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 bing. And I just wanted to make sure for the record that Peg, with our agreement, understood that she was not being locked out from the discussion.
no, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, she was having
Yeah.
I want to say school board discussion.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
talking with somebody else, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when- and
about-
matter of fact, when she came back over, we were on the last
Yeah.
item, that was what it came down to.
And technically, a person who is not present for the reading of the motion may not vote on it,
Yeah.
but that's it. But
Yeah, okay.
anyway, we grumble a lot, but it was,
Yeah, okay. All
Excuse
right.
me, Mr. Chair, while we're on that topic, just real quick, were those recommendations sent to Ernie?
Yes,
Okay,
yep.
perfect.
Both
Thank
to
you.
Ernie and to Nate, or no, you had already sent them to him, the school board.
Yeah, we have the minutes from the school board session. I don't know
Yeah.
if you want those.
We got Sherry's is the one we're waiting.
Yeah,
on.
wait,
No, I know,
yeah.
I know, but I mean, if
Yeah.
anybody is just interested
I
in
think
reading
Tammy,
them.
didn't Tammy post that? Crandall posted?
Yes, she
Yeah,
did
so I
post
think
them,
you've seen
yes.
She posted, yeah. she
Yeah,
posted
okay.
those.
Michelle
Yeah.
posted it from the town, and I
Yeah,
think
yeah, and we're,
Tammy
Well,
did.
did we
waiting
get
for
them
them.
from the town?
I think they were posted, I believe.
I don't,
I've seen it, and I thought it was posted
yeah,
on the website.
that was from,
From the town
Michelle.
clerk, yeah.
yeah, that wasn't from, we
No,
haven't
it wasn't
gotten-
from Sherry, we
Oh,
haven't
yeah,
seen
yeah.
ours.
Haven't seen ours from Sherry
No.
yet, which she's on a bus coming back from, on C&J from Logan right now, so that's why she's not here.
Yeah, no, the only ones we'd seen was the town.
okay, so they did their own minutes just like we did.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
That
right.
was for the
Just
Board of
curious,
Selectmen.
yep, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so shall we, did anybody get a chance to look at the January 28th minutes? Well, of which I believe a copy is over there?
I printed out
Okay.
there was two for that one was for the school and one was for the
Okay.
town. Those are over there. I had my edited comments, I didn't see anything else, there
Okay.
were very little, because the
Yeah.
original reason we tabled it is we had already gone through and looked at it. I think Sherry had made some comments to Peg's. I think you might have had some comments,
I
but
had
what
some
happened was
comments.
the article numbers were not put in there, and Sherry went back and put them in. So, that's why Tom asked me to print them out, they're not finalized, it was just printed out for review.
No,
Sherry sent them some to me, and I don't remember which ones.
they should have been the 28th, our meeting's on the 28th.
Yep.
Those are the
And I
last ones I
made,
got from
okay,
Sherry.
and I made corrections, and she was going to put my corrections in Google because I have tried very hard to change,
Yes, okay.
make changes, and Google does not like me, so it won't.
I-
Or they won't accept them or whatever,
I-
so.
Okay.
Pardon?
You have to talk nicer to it.
Yeah, no, you're not talking mean enough to it, that's the problem.
I was gonna
Okay,
say, I
and
thought they
You
asked
said
me, so.
you sent those changes to Sherry already?
Yeah, and whether
Okay.
she put them in
I'm not
the-
sure if what I've got here is, I don't think what I have posted on the Google thing has your changes, because this is what she sent me, and she said I sent Peg a copy separately. So, my guess is that these do not have your changes in them.
Well, do you want to accept the minutes with the changes?
We can, but we don't know what they're getting in there or not.
I would accept a motion to table these until we get know that we've got the corrected minutes.
Motion so said.
second,
All those in favor of tabling the January
Well, can we
28th
discuss
minutes?
it for a moment?
Okay.
Just a quick thing, the only reason I'm asking for a discussion is,
Okay,
this
how
is our
about,
last, I wanna make the I'm saying, that's why I wanna have a discussion, so.
that,
Where's Greg?
let the record note that Humphrey and I are in agreement. What will happen is the majority of those of the quorum
Won't be here.
will accept them.
yeah,
And, well.
And
the
then
other-
the abstentions count as a positive vote, so you can't lose.
Well, my comment was going to be, and just a quick one, is this is the last regular meeting before we have a new board.
yeah.
So,
My changes are not in these.
Yeah,
and again, that was the
that's
only
because
thing I
that's
saw online, so I just printed it
Yeah.
out with what I had, so.
Yeah, and that was what she had sent me, she also sent her, Peg's changes aren't in there, is what I'm saying.
So,
So-
all I'm getting at is in order to try to get some kind of vote for the board, gonna have to do it before the election's done. And, because once the election happens on the 16th, you got a new board.
Can we do it online?
The 10th.
The 10th, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we're allowed to.
Okay.
We can hold a special meeting
Our
at
next
Dunkin'
meeting
Donuts.
would have been around the 16th.
that,
Yeah, I'll be there.
yes,
Thank you, by the way.
Why?
You,
one,
I want a coffee.
yeah, Mr. Brown.
any actions of a board taken which have, for which they have the legal authority are carried forward at the date the action is taken. The minutes are a record of the actions of that board. Again, when you reconstitute in January, there is nothing that prevents you from voting to accept the minutes, and anyone who was not there may vote abstain, and there would have to be a negative vote of those present greater than those present in favor to be a problem for the minutes. So we can't lose.
Okay.
As long as the Earth stays at 22.5 degrees, the world is fine.
Okay, so basically we're figured out.
Yep, okay.
Okay, all right, okay, there's a motion on the table, we had some discussion.
Yep.
Motion to table the minutes,
Aye.
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 and chair votes aye, it's unanimous for tabling the minutes. And, let's see, back to my agenda.
Now,
I
the
believe-
two sets of- you had the other set of minutes too. The two for the 28th, I agree. I didn't know if Peg saw the one for the 14th, because that one was over there as well. That was the second set of
That's
minutes.
in.
It's not on your agenda.
All right,
But
because the
that
only
one was
thing,
tabled.
18th, the 28th,
Okay, January 14th,
Is that, I'm trying to remember which one it was. It's,
it had to be the 14th.
There's three of
yeah.
them printed out right there. There were two from
but
the
there are
20.
two for the 18th.
Mr. Brown.
They're
A,
both the same.
Okay.
a motion to thank the chair for his time and courtesies in dealing with a herd of cats. Is there a second?
Second.
All those not in favor. And minutes.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, I forget which one.
One's in favor.
Oh, okay, they're two
Okay, there
totally
they are.
different.
Yeah,
Never
one's
mind,
the
I'm
school,
sorry.
one's the town, and then there's another one there. That's the other set of minutes.
The 28th, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, I just saw the same date.
Hey, what's the date on
I'm gonna go back and look.
That's,
I looked in the February, I looked in the
Okay.
January notes from the agenda, the minutes. What we had tabled.
14th, and I think it's that one.
that? What is the last minutes that we accepted?
2 minutes.
Was the first part of January.
Yep.
I mean,
It was, the 14th was the January 14th, there's two sets.
So we should have the 28th there, and then it should have been the ones that were the two sets.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Okay.
So those were the two. So it was the 28th. It wasn't the 8th of February because we hadn't gotten that one yet. So there's the two from the deliberative session, the two from the session we had with the school and the town when we went over that. And then there's the one from the 28th, which was here. So that was the other one that's printed out. And that was when, I know that one started off with talking about the MS 27 and 727, adding it to the bylaws. That was the piece
Yeah,
of that.
okay.
So that one, I believe, there wasn't, it was pretty straightforward. There wasn't much in there, because it was just which
Yeah.
motions we had and whether
Yeah,
or not
yeah,
we
that,
approved.
yeah, that was the,
But what we had in there
January
was the January 18th minutes were postponed until it
Postponed,
was
yeah.
changed. That's all it was.
yep.
So the two from the 18th and that one for the
But
28th.
the changes that we're talking about postponing approving these minutes for critical in any nature.
I don't know. I know
no,
what my
we've
changes
got-
were. I made some minor
We've got
changes.
the draft minutes are posted. Oh,
So why
So-
can't we just approve as drafted and be done with it? I mean, I don't know, I think we overdo the minutes anyway.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I'm
it's
sorry,
not-
I
It's
just,
not required by the state or by the right to know.
No.
So,
She's a teacher.
yes, Peg. Yes, Peg.
I honestly feel, and I have always felt this way, that anything coming out of any committee should be grammatically correct and should have the correct information. And I will be very honest, that's what I look for. And that's why I really correct the minutes. And the minutes that you send out from the other committee, I mean, I usually have very minor changes, but you will notice that they are minor grammatical changes.
Yep.
It's
agree.
just something,
I'm just saying it because we're,
I know.
you know, in 2 short weeks or 3 short weeks,
I totally agree
we're all gonna
with
be
you.
gone and
But you know what, I'll be very honest, I get another set of minutes on a Sunday night, and they're back to the person Sunday night, Monday morning at the very latest.
No.
And
Okay.
anyway, whatever
So-
anybody wants
I
to do, I don't care.
understand.
Here,
Okay,
So-
well,
So,
before we go on, so the only thing we actually addressed originally as far as the motion was the ones for the ones for the 18th. The two, the school and the town. We haven't addressed the 28th one yet. So we wanna, you want a motion on that one to table it? I mean.
did we vote on the 18th yet?
Well, I think we voted on the 18th to table it because
Okay.
your changes hadn't been there,
Yeah,
so that's why
yeah,
I'm saying,
and
so
I've-
we still got
I've
the
seen it
28th
change.
one.
The 28th ones we've got, which,
I thought those were, Pretty
Those
straightforward,
are the
so I don't
first
know.
ones that I looked at, and my corrections were not in there.
yeah, no, 28th is what we postponed because her changes weren't in there. We haven't voted on the 18th, the 18th. January 18th, we haven't voted on.
okay, but I think she looked at those. Didn't you just went through those ones too, right? Your changes weren't in there for either one?
I have not seen those,
The 18th?
right?
Okay.
I never saw those, so,
Okay, I will send you a copy.
thank
So
you.
then so to try to help out on this one, Thomas, is then I'll make a motion to table the three set, the remaining minutes until such time as they've been reviewed.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of tabling
Aye,
the 3 sets of minutes until such times they can be reviewed?
aye.
And
And chair votes aye, it's unanimous. Mr. Brown?
information, one quick sentence. Minutes require motions, actions, by whom made and seconded. There is no required format, and there is no requirement, and no member has a right of verbatim transcript of their remarks. And the joke is, it's like a good sexist joke. The skirt should be long enough to cover the subject and short enough to be interesting.
Okay, those,
We need a
I-
motion to adjourn.
I want that in there.
Those minutes.
no,
Minutes
I want
tonight.
those minutes,
Make
yeah.
sure that that's in there.
yeah.
And you get credit for it too.
Quote by Larry Brown.
Okay, and let's see. Any other business to come before the board?
I repeat my motion of
I-
thanks.
I have one little bit. I believe we have 3 open positions. The last I heard, we had 1 candidate running,
One candidate running, and there's 3 positions.
at least 3 positions.
Yeah, at
There
least,
might be
I'm
4.
gonna say at least 3.
Uh,
Yeah.
If anybody is on any of the town social media sites, you might encourage folks to run as write-in candidates that might be
Yep.
even remotely interested in the budget committee. I believe at least 2 positions are for 1 year.
One for 1 year.
One for
One
1
for
and
1
2
year,
for
2
3.
for 3 years. So,
And the one candidate in the room is on the 3-year.
so there's a 1-year position if anybody wants to try it out.
The 3-year plan.
Okay, again, I would post something on social media, but I'm trying to divest myself of that medium because I find it's taking up entirely too much of my time.
Is
Uh,
there- I'm sorry, is there anything they need to do to become a write-in candidate?
Nope, that
Nope.
just, the best thing to do is to show
Show
up.
up at the poll.
The day of election and hand out a card, say,
Yeah.
write me in.
And you know what? If they're
That's how Dennis did it.
Yeah,
if they are a
He
snowbird,
still
you find somebody else to stand there and hand out their little sheets of paper.
Yeah.
And I'll never forgive them.
The-
Me either. So there.
Mr. Chair?
It
Yes.
should be the name to be used.
mister.
So if you were always Larry Brown, I have a legal signature, but I am Larry Brown. And so someone else should keep that in mind.
And I'm Margaret,
Uh,
parentheses, Peg Heard, because an actual friend who lives in Milton, the last time I ran. Who's Margaret Heard? because I forgot to put the little peg in.
Right.
And she figured, well, heard.
Run as occupant.
My name is Stephen Bennett.
Oh, really?
Okay, so anyways,
You wanna write me in?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
get back to here.
Mr.
So
Ross.
I just wanted to say the elections are March 10th. I encourage everybody in Milton to come out and vote. Your elections that are, that we do in, for the town of Milton are very, very important because they hit your pocketbook. And so I encourage everybody to come out and vote. It's, and my last thing is, March 1st is the last day that you can do an abatement on your properties. So if you're interested in doing an abatement, you have still a few days left. Come in and see Kathy Wallensford. You can do an abatement if you think your property has been unfairly, if you think it's been unfairly taxed or assessed, I should say. So those are the two things I just wanted
All right.
to say.
Yes, sir.
Can
Mr. Wood.
I add something to that?
Mm-hmm.
And on election day, when you come out to vote, remember the warrant articles. Pay very close attention to the numbers in the warrant articles. Don't just go in and, kind of with a broad brush. Pay attention to the numbers, because a lot of those numbers are gonna could mean significant differences if you vote, a party line or just, walk in there with an attitude.
Yeah.
Pay attention to them.
And we will be sending the sample ballots out
When?
this week. So you'll be getting the sample ballots in the mail. And I encourage everybody to sit down and study the sample ballot. Look it over, figure out, if you, whatever warrant article you're looking at, what kind of tax impact it's gonna have. Just that's why we send the sample ballots out. So when you go to the poll, you have a clear vision on what you're gonna be voting for. So that's another nice thing to
Mr.
get.
Humphrey.
Voter's guide, that's gonna be coming out as well, right?
Well, that's
Besides the sample ballot's gonna, the reason I'm saying is, it's
Yeah.
got more than a sample ballot, it's got an
Right.
explanation.
Well, sample,
It's-
voter's guide,
Well,
whatever.
no, but I'm saying people recognize the sample ballot, but the voter's guide is a part of that explains what's in it. That's, I just wanted to add on, because I know
Mr.
you're
Brown.
right.
Just general information to the camera. The unassigned fund balance has come back to the town from previous taxes. It has been used very intelligently by the town to reduce its operating costs. Money that goes into the unassigned fund balance is well handled by the trustees of the trust funds. We are earning an average of about 3.5% on that money. It brings down the tax rate. The same thing is done by the school to use the surplus funds from the end of this coming year to pay for things that would otherwise go out as a new tax. Dennis said it, read the warrants and choose your best costs for the town and school.
And I forgot to mention one more thing. Doesn't have anything to do with the votes or anything. But when the budget committee members see the sample ballots, you'll notice they removed our recommendations for I believe the 2 petition warrant articles is where they came off from.
Oh.
The attorney said that it wasn't, that wasn't appropriate for us
Right.
because
Oh.
they didn't impact money, sort of. Yeah, they do in kind of terms of tax rate, but no monies are impacted. So they removed so when you see that, don't be surprised if you don't see the budget recommendation.
Were there 2 town petition?
What's that? Yes.
There were 2
Yeah, there were 2
petitions on the
petition
town,
warrant
okay.
on the town.
Yeah.
Because I know we had one too that,
Yeah, no, this was on but see, that one clearly didn't. And we were debating whether or not we should vote on that because there wasn't any money appropriated, but it impacted the tax rate. And we ended up saying, yeah, okay, they can choose to use it or not. And
And they
it came down, the attorney said no, so.
No, We're gonna need signatures before the,
Not before the election's after. because you
after the
sign-
election one's
sign
done. We don't
whatever-
need to,
yeah.
I wasn't sure if we needed to go back, that's why I was asking
Yeah.
this. We didn't have to go back because of the changes.
I don't know.
What?
The school.
No.
The budget committee signs the budget, and I just said, I know there
Oh,
were the changes,
oh,
I
yeah.
said, so that'll
Yeah.
be after, that'll be
Yeah,
after.
I think
the-
after the
Right.
vote, yeah.
Yeah.
Not before.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in
Very
favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Running
we are
it all.
adjourned.
That, there are 5 different CPIs.